Hello everyone, welcome to the Sandpoint Institute Belagavi. So today in this particular video, we are coming up with a new topic, that is a geotechnical engineering previous year questions which were asked in year 2017 in WRD paper. So by our analysis, we have seen that there were total 8 questions from this particular subject. And if you go through this video, you will also get to know what are the nature of the questions that have been asked. And most of the questions are quite simple, straightforward. There are theoretical questions as well as the practical questions. So after going through this video, you will analyze what kind of questions have been asked from this particular subject and what is the weightage of this subject. Most of the questions which came in this particular year were quite simple and straightforward that can be solved easily, but there are few one or two twisting questions as well which we need to understand. So let's start. The very first question is from the foundation engineering, where it has been given that we have two footings, one is having the circular shape and the other is having the square shape, and we have to find what is their ratio of ultimate bearing capacities. Now this particular question basically came in GATE exam, and the same question has been repeated here, and you may find this question in other exams as well. So let's start solving this question. So first of all, we should know what is the equation for determining the ultimate bearing capacity in case of circular footing and in case of rectangular footing. So first I am writing for circular. So the ultimate bearing capacity is denoted by QU, and we are finding it for circular footing. So the relationship is 1.3 CNC plus gamma into DF multiplied by NQ plus 0.3 diameter of the circular footing multiplied by gamma into N gamma. This is the basic equation for circular. Similarly, I can write the expression for square footing. So for square footing, the equation comes out to be 1.3 CNC plus gamma into DF into NQ plus 0.4 times the size of the footing. So here we have square footing, the side of the square is capital B, into gamma and gamma. So these are the two equations. Now we have to find the ratio of these two. But for solving this question, certain information has been given in the problem which we are going to utilize. So here it has been given that the footings have been installed in purely cohesionless soil. So if the soil is cohesionless, that means the C value is 0. Cohesion value is 0 because soil is purely cohesionless. Cohesionless soils are basically sands. Sands are considered to be cohesionless and clays are considered to be the cohesive soil. So if C is 0, in both the expression, the first term will get cancelled because C value will be 0. Now, in order to solve it further, the other information that has been provided here is that both the footings have been provided on the surface of the soil. So when we provide the footing, let me draw the diagram first to make you understand. So suppose this is our footing, which is provided inside the ground. Inside the soil it has been provided. So suppose this is my ground level. This is our ground level. So from here we generally measure the depth of the footing. So this dimension is basically our DF. We call it as DF, which is the depth of the footing. And this is generally considered as the width of the footing, which is B in the case of square footing, and it will be considered as diameter for the circular footing. Now here in this problem, the footings have been placed on the surface. What does that mean? This simply means that this ground level is not available here, rather it is available somewhere here. And we know that DF is always calculated from the level of the ground. Now since the level of the ground is below the footing, so here DF value will also be 0. So here we can say that the DF value will also be 0. So if DF is 0, then the second term will also get cancelled. So these two terms will also be 0. Now if we take the ratio, so QU circular, so I'm just simply writing C for circular and S for square. So if we take the ratio, we have to take the ratio of the third term. So when we take the ratio of the third term, one more information is given that the diameter of the circular footing is same as the side of the square. That means this b and d are also same. So these three terms and these three terms in the last expression are also same. So when we take the ratio, it comes out to be 0.3 divided by 0.4, which is nothing, 3 by 4. So based on this, our correct answer will be option 1. Now let's move to our next problem. So in the next question, it has been asked, what is the ratio of the effective stress in horizontal direction to the effective stress in vertical direction called as? So again, I will draw a diagram to make you understand this. So let's consider here a ground level. Suppose this is our ground level, which is denoted here, and I am considering a point A. I am considering a point A at certain distance from the ground level. Say this distance is Z. Now at this point A, the stress will be acting in vertical direction as well as in the horizontal direction. So let me draw a 3D dimension for this A point. So I am representing this A point in 3 dimension. So I am considering it as a block, as a cube. So this is my point A. This is my point A. Now on this point A, the stress will come from all the 3 directions. So this is the vertical direction, this is the horizontal direction, this is the horizontal direction, and this one will also be horizontal direction, which is also called as lateral direction. So when we write these values, this will be sigma V, and usually in soils we consider the effective stresses. That means the effect of the water has been considered, or the pore water is also being considered. So this is sigma H and this is sigma H. Now here, in case of soils, when we are representing the sigma H, the sigma H will be given as, K times of sigma V. And if I talk about sigma V, what is sigma V? So sigma V will be how much? The gamma of this soil multiplied by Z. Gamma of this soil multiplied by Z. And if water table is also present here, suppose water table is also present, then it will be minus gamma of water into Z, which is the pore water pressure. So here it will become gamma dash into Z. This is just an example which I have considered here. But the point that we have to see here for this question is this relationship. Now in order to find the lateral pressure, sigma H is called as horizontal effective stress or the lateral pressure. So this sigma H is denoted by this expression. That means with the help of this K, we are able to calculate the value of sigma H. Where K is basically the ratio of the horizontal effective stress to the vertical effective stress. And this K is called as coefficient of lateral earth pressure. So for this problem, our correct answer will be option 2. Now here we have the third problem, in which some of the properties of the soils are given to us, and we have to classify the soil as per the Indian standard classification. So what are the properties known to us? The coefficient of uniformity, which is denoted by Cu, the value of that is given as 8. As well as we know the value of coefficient of curvature, which is given as 2.8. Other properties which are given to us are like, if we have sieve sizes here, I am writing the sieve sizes here, sieve size. Other parameters are percentage passing. If we have the percentage passing, we can also calculate percentage retained. So I am calculating these three information here. So we have sieve size, we have percentage passing, and we have percentage retained. So let's write the values now. So on 4.75 mm sieve, it is given that the percentage passing is 70%. So 70% of the soil is passing through this sieve. That means 30% is retaining. 30% of the soil is retaining on 4.75 mm sieve. And on the 75 micron sieve, it is given that the percentage passing is 10%. So how much is retained? So this we can understand by drawing the simple diagram. Suppose this was my 4.75 mm sieve and another is 75 micron sieve. So on the 4.75 mm sieve, 30% has been retained, out of which 70 has further passed, and from 75 further 10% is passing. That means 60% must have retained on 75 micron. So I can say that 60% has been retained on 75 micron. And to classify the soil, we should know which soils are called as coarse grained soils and which soils are called as fine grained soils. So those soils which are going to retain more than 50% on the 75 micron sieve, they will be called as coarse grained soil. So in our case, this 60 plus 30, that means 90%. 90% of the soil is greater than the size of 75 micron. That means it is a coarse grained soil. It is a coarse grained soil. Now inside the coarse grained we have two options. Either it can be gravel or it can be sand. So gravel are basically those sizes which are greater than 4.75 mm. That means whatever is being retained on 4.75 mm, those will be called as gravels. So in this soil which is given to us, 30% are the gravels. And whatever soil is retained on 75 micron sieve, because we know that the particle of sand is between 75 micron to 4.75. So whatever particles are retaining on the 75 micron sieve, those are basically sand. So sand percentage is 60%. So under the coarse grained soil also, the more percentage is available for the sand. So we know that the soil will be sand. So the answer should start with S. So here if we see the options, in every option S is given, that means the soil is sand, not the gravel. Now 10% of the soil is finer than this 75 micron. So I can say that my percentage fineness is how much? That is basically 10%. Now if you have studied the concept, this concept was also taken in our lectures. So there we have seen this percentage fineness. There are three cases. If this percentage fineness is less than 5%, different nomenclature is there. If this percentage fineness lies between 5 to 12%, then different nomenclature is there. And if the percentage fineness exceeds 12%, then different nomenclature is there. Now seeing the option which is given here, that is the 10%. The value that we are getting for the fineness is 12%, 10%. So it is lying in this range, 5 to 12%. So under this we know that the naming that we do is basically dual symbols. Dual symbols are used. And if you check the options, here you can see dual symbols are there. 1 and 2. Two names are there collectively written. Now under this there are 8 possibilities. Under this we have seen there are total 8 possible names. So which name we have to select? So first of all we will check whether it is a poorly graded sand or it is a well graded sand, whether it is SP or it is SW. So in order to check this, we see the values of Cu and Cc. So a sand will be called as well graded. Well graded sand will be called when Cu value is greater than 6 and Cc value is between 1 and 3. It is between 1 and 3. And in our case, the values which have been given, Cu is given as how much? The value is 8 and Cc is given as 2.8. So both the values are following this criteria. So from here I can say that the sand that we are having is a well graded sand. So SW will be the name. So if I see the options, either answer 2 is correct or either answer 4 is correct. Now what is the difference between second and fourth option is it the difference lies in the second term. So M here stands for silt and C here stands for clay. So now we have to check whether this sand is containing 10% of silt or that 10% belongs to the clay. So that is the thing that is remaining. So in order to check this, what we basically do is we find the value of IP. We find the value of IP. So IP is equal to WL minus WP, liquid limit minus plastic limit. And these values are given in the problem. The liquid limit and plastic limit are 38 and 34.2. So from here I can relate. So I will put the value 38 minus 34.2. So this comes out to be 3.8%. Now there are two ways to solve further. What I can do is, if this value is less than 7, that means it is basically containing silt. And if this value is more than 7, then it is called as a clay. Then clay will be present. So from there I can solve. Or another way is, if I go as per the classification of the fine soils, we have seen that we can find the IP of A line. IP of A line. So IP of A line formula was 0.73 WL minus 20. WL minus 20. So if I put the value 0.73, WL value was given as 38 minus 20. So on solving this will be 18 into 0.73. So this will come out as 13.4%. So now I can compare the IP of my soil, which was given to us, and IP of A line. So if the soil is having IP less than IP of A line, so below the IP of A line, we know that the soils are generally, they are called as silty, and above they are called as clay soils. So let's check, let's compare. So IP of our soil is 3.8, which is clearly less than IP of A line. IP of A line. So if the soil is below the IP of A line or below the A line, we can say that it will be a silt. So this denotes that the soil will be silt. Or simply you can omit the step by comparing this 3.8 with 7. So if this value is less than 7, it will be silt only. So now I can say that the correct answer for this question will be SWSM. So let's go to the options. So SWSM, our correct answer will be option 2. Option 2 will be our correct answer. This question is quite simple. They have simply asked the formula. So it has been given that we have to tell what is the ratio of unconfined compressive strength of an undisturbed soil sample to that of the remolded sample. So we know that the sensitivity is basically a property of the soil which tells that how much strength the soil is going to lose when it is disturbed or when it is remolded. So this is QU undisturbed divided by QU remolded. Remolded, or we can also write disturbed, remolded. So this is called as sensitivity. Now here one word is coming, unconfined compressive strength. What is the meaning of unconfined compressive strength? So suppose if this is our soil sample, this is our soil sample. So here first the soil is in undisturbed state. That time we are going to measure its strength by applying the compressive force. So this value will be QU. After that we will disturb the soil, we will remold it, and again we will make this kind of shape. Then again the test will be done. Again the test will be done on the remolded sample, and same loading will be applied, and we will check where it is going to fail. So that will be QU remolded. QU remolded, and this will be QU undisturbed. So the ratio of these two will be called as sensitivity. Now what is unconfined? Unconfined basically means that the load has been applied only in axial direction. Now suppose if we also apply the load in the horizontal or the lateral direction, then this kind of testing is called as the confined compressive strength. Then this strength that we are going to get is the confined compressive strength. You might have done the test in the lab for the concrete cubes. In the concrete lab, you must have tested the concrete cubes. So there also, under the UTM machine or the CTM machine, when you place the concrete block, we apply the load only in the vertical direction. That means those tests are also unconfined test. Those tests are also unconfined test. But when you do the test in the triaxial is a apparatus which is generally used in the soil mechanics. So for testing the soils, we use triaxial test. So there a cell pressure is also exerted. Cell pressure is basically the pressure which will be exerted by the water which is around our sample. So our sample will be placed like this in a chamber, and this chamber will be filled by water. So here on the soil sample, the pressure will be exerted in lateral direction also. So this test will be called as the confined test. So this test is confined test. But here we are talking of unconfined compressive strength. So I hope by now it is clear that what is unconfined test and what is confined test. Now this question looks bit lengthy, but the solution is quite small. We do not have to do much here. So what has been done here is, what is given to us, that we are doing a hydrometer analysis for a soil, and that soil is having different size of particles and their corresponding weights are also given to us. So when we have inserted the soil in the jar, that time we have measured the specific gravity of the soil solids, as well as we know the viscosity of the mixture or the suspension that has been formed. Now what they are asking is how much time it will take for all the particles to settle here. So one thing we should first understand here is that here we have to use the concept of settling velocity. So settling velocity, if I talk about the formula, that is 1 by 18 into viscosity into g minus 1 into gamma of water into d square. This is the basic formula by which we can calculate the settling velocity. Now, how much time will be required to settle all the particles? Now, one thing you can observe from this equation is that the settling velocity is depending upon the diameter of the particle. So, those particles which are having bigger size, they will be having settling velocity higher, as well as the time required for their settlement will be less. So, the maximum time will be required by those particles which are having the least particle size. So when the smallest particle will settle, that means all the particles have settled at that time. So let me write this point. All particles will settle when the smallest particle settles. Why I am saying this? Because if the particle is smallest, that means its diameter is least and its settling velocity will be less. So if the velocity is less, it will take maximum time to settle. So when the particle which is having the least size, it has settled, we can say that all the particles have settled. So let's calculate how much the smallest particle size will take time. So in order to calculate the time, we can use this information that the time will be the distance traveled divided by the velocity. So velocity will be the settling velocity because the particles are moving in the vertical direction. So from here I can compute the time required by the smallest particle. Now first Vs will be computed. So Vs is equal to 1 by 18 mu. So mu value is given. Mu value is 1 into 10 raised to power minus 6. So 1 into 10 raised to power minus 6. But this value is in kilonewton second per meter square. So let me convert it into Newton. So 10 raised to power 3 I am introducing to convert this kilonewton into Newton. In the numerator we have G minus 1. So G of the solid is given as 2.7 minus 1. Further, gamma of water we know it is 1000, but the units are kg per meter cube. But in denominator we have the units of Newton. This kilonewton has been converted into Newton. So in the numerator also we need the units of Newton. So kg can be converted into Newton by multiplying by 9.81. So now in numerator also we have Newton. Then what is the diameter of the smallest particle? This is the smallest particle. So the diameter of that is 0.004 divided by 10 raised to power 3. Now why I am dividing? To convert it into meter, because here in denominator we have meter term. So this square we have to consider. The square of this has to be considered. So let's solve this. See what do we get from here. So certain terms can be cancelled. This 1000 will get cancelled with this. This 10 raised to power minus 6 and this 10 raised to power 6. This 3 raised to power 2 will be 6. So this will get cancelled out. So from here, if we calculate Vs, the value that you will get is 1.4824 into 10 raised to power minus 5 meter per second. Now we have to find the time. So in order to find the time, the next step will be to use this formula d upon Vs. So how much distance the particles are traveling, that is also given. So this jar is having a height of 30 centimeter. So the suspension that we are preparing, that is up till the height of 30 centimeter. So the height is, or the distance traveled is 30 centimeter. So I am multiplying it by 10 raised to power minus 2 to convert it into meter. into 1.4824 into 10 raised to power minus 5. Now from here you will get the time in seconds. So let's see what answer do we get. So on solving this, the answer that I'm getting is 202.37.45 seconds. But here the options that are given are in hours and minutes. So in order to convert it into hours, I can divide it by 60 into 60. So seconds to minutes, then minutes to hours. So divided by 3600. So from here I get the value as 5.62 hours. 5.62 hours. But here the option says we have to also find it in minutes. So it will be 5 hours, 5 hours, and to convert this into minutes, 0.62 multiplied by 60, then we will get the value in minutes. So 0.62 multiplied by 60 gives me the value as 37 minutes. 37 minutes. So from here the correct answer is option 2. So option 2 will be our correct answer for this particular problem. Now this question is purely theoretical, in which they are asking what is the sequence of the consolidation process. So let's understand this problem. So suppose we have a soil sample. This is a soil sample for which we are doing the consolidation in the lab. Or the same process you can experience in the field as well. So suppose this is our soil sample. So this soil sample will be containing what? It will be containing soil particles or solid particles, as well as water will be present. Water will be present inside it. And we know that the total stress is the effective stress plus pore water pressure. That means some of the stress is taken care by the water and some of the stress is taken care by the solids as well. Now what is happening here is we are increasing the load. What we are doing, we are increasing the load or we are applying the load. So here suppose we are applying a load of delta sigma. Here we are applying the load of delta sigma. So initially what happens, this delta sigma additional load will be taken care by the water which is present. So the water which is present, it is going to take care this delta sigma. So when it is going to take care of delta sigma, that means the pore water pressure value will increase. So initially the pore water pressure was U, but since the load has been applied, now more pressure will be generated, and this additional pressure is called as excess pore water pressure. Excess pore water pressure. Then after that, after some time, as the time passes, this load which is being taken care by the water, slowly it will be transferred to the solids which are present here. So initially the load was taken by the water. Now this load is being transferred on the solids. And during this process, the water will start coming out. Since the water is starting coming out, that means the volume of the soil will decrease. And if the volume of the soil is decreasing, this entire process is called as consolidation. So initially the excess pore pressure was developed, and then this excess pore pressure will start decreasing with time. And finally a stage will come, then the U value will become equal to 0. So the U value will become equal to 0. So initially excess pore pressure was developing, that means this value was increasing, and later this value starts decreasing and it will achieve a value of 0. So if I talk about the effective stress, what will happen to the effective stress? So with time, the U value is decreasing. That means our sigma effective is increasing, because here we have a negative sign. Here we have a negative sign. So if U value is decreasing, I can say that the effective stress value will start increasing. So now they have asked what will be the sequence of the processes. So initially what is happening? We have increased the value of delta sigma. We have provided the loading. So initially the increase in the total stress will be observed. So this will be my first process. After that, this load will be taken care by water. So excess pore pressure will develop. So development of excess pore pressure will happen. Now with time, this excess pore water pressure will reduce because the water is getting released, and this delta sigma will be transferred to the solids. It will be transferred to the solid particles. So that time decrease in the excess pore water pressure happens, and when the U value is decreasing, the effective stress starts increasing. So this will be our fourth step. So the sequence is B, then C, then A, then D. So if we go by the option, the correct answer is option 3. So option 3 is the correct answer. Now here we have another problem. It is given that we have a 1 meter thick clay layer. So let me show you the diagram. So this is the 1 meter thick clay layer. This is clay layer. Now here in this clay layer, which is having thickness of 1 meter. The thickness is given as 1 meter. So here what is happening, the drainage of water is happening from both the phases. So from both sides the water is coming out. So from top as well as from bottom the water is coming out. Let me make a change here. From top as well as from bottom the water is coming out. Suppose this is the middle. So the drainage path is the distance traveled by the water. So in this case that is 0.5 meter. Now in the second case what they are saying is that a thin layer of pervious soil has been introduced. Again we have 1 meter of clay layer only. Again this is clay. Same thickness 1 meter. This is again 1 meter. Now what is happening? At the middle we have introduced a thin layer. A very thin layer, pervious layer has been introduced. So due to this, now the drainage will happen something like this. The drainage will happen like this. The drainage will happen like this. That means now 4 phases will be there from where the drainage will happen. Now there are 4 phases from where the drainage will happen. Since a pervious layer has been introduced, so through that pervious layer, the water will start coming out. So now in this case, the drainage path will be only 0.25. This value is only 0.25. Earlier it was 0.5 and 0.5. Now here we have 0.25, 0.25, 0.25 and 0.25. Now if we go by the formula, what does the formula says? Although this is a direct relationship which we should know, no need to solve all this. And again this has been taught in the class, the same numerical. Now what we have to do here is we have to apply the basic formula, that is time factor is equal to CV into T divided by D square, where D is the drainage path, CV is the coefficient of consolidation, TV is called as the time factor, and T is the duration of the consolidation. That means we are seeing the consolidation after 1 year, 2 year or 3 years. So it is a duration of consolidation. Now this is the general expression. Now how to use it here? So for that we should understand 2 points. That if our soil is same, if we are not changing the soil, that means the CV value is same. CV value will not change. If the soil is same, so in first condition it was clay, again it is clay. So in both the cases, CV will remain same. And the second condition is if degree of consolidation is same. If degree of consolidation is same, then TV is same. Now here in this question, both the times we are seeing that the soil will settle by 10 centimeter. That means the degree of settlement or the degree of consolidation that we are observing, that is also same. So that means in this example or in this particular question, CV and TV values are same. So if I write the formula for first condition and second condition, I can say that my time is directly proportional to D square, because TV and CV values are not changing because soil is same as well as the settlement that we are observing is same. So from here I can say that T1 upon T2 is equal to D1 square upon D2 square. D1 square upon D2 square. So let's solve it further. So T1 is given to us as 1 year. T1 is 1 year. So in first case the time taken is 1 year. Now they are asking how much time will be required when this pervious layer has been introduced. So initially our drainage path was how much? 0.5 square. And now we have to find T2, but in the second stage now the drainage path has been reduced to 0.25 square. So from here I can calculate the value of T2. So this T2 value will be 1 by 4, 1 by 4, which will be 0.25, 0.25 years. So seeing the options, the correct answer will be option 3, option 3. So here, as the drainage path has been reduced, the effect that we are going to see here is that the time duration will be less, because now the water can come out from 4 phases. Earlier the water was able to come out only from the 2 phases. So here the time required will be less. So how much less time will be required? So 1/4 time will get reduced. 1/4 time will get reduced. So earlier the time taken was 1 year, but now the time taken will be 0.25 years. Now the last problem. In this it is given that we have to select which type of soil it is if we are getting the value of standard penetration test value equal to 12. Now to solve this question, we have to remember certain data. So I am making a table here with the help of which this problem can be solved. This problem can be solved. So you have to remember this table. So here I am writing SPT value. Then I am writing the value of phi. And last I am writing relative density of soil. So here they have given the value of SPT value. They may also give you the value of phi, which is the friction angle. So if the value of SPT is between 0 to 4, that time the phi value will be less than 30 degree. The soil will be called as very loose soil. Second is for 5 to 10 SPT value. SPT value is generally denoted by capital N. So 5 to 10, then the value of phi will be 30 to 35 degree. 30 to 35 degree. That time it will be considered as loose soil. If it is from 11 to 30. So for 11 to 30 it is medium dense soil, and the phi value is 35 to 38 degree. So it is medium dense. So I hope from here you can get what is the answer, but let me complete the table. So 31 to 50, it is 38 degree to 41 degree. So in question, instead of n value, they might have given you phi value. Say the phi value is say 28. So what will be the consistency of the soil, or what will be the type of the soil? So if it is less than 38, soil will be very loose. So that's why I'm giving the value of SPT as well as for phi. So here it will be called as dense. And if it is greater than 50, then it will be called as very dense. And the value will be 41 degree to 44 degree. So remember this table. From this table we can easily answer such kind of questions. So here n value is 12. So 12 will come under this range. It will be falling under this range between 11 to 30. So clearly the consistency of the soil will be medium dense. So the correct answer is option 2. So these were the 8 questions which have been asked from the geotechnical engineering. So from here you can relate that the questions are quite simple, as well as the weightage of this subject in the WRD exam is quite high. So if you are preparing for this exam, you need to focus on the concepts which have been taught in the lecture for this particular subject, since the weightage of this is quite high. And it is one of the scoring subjects because the nature of the questions which are asked are quite simple. And most of the questions which have been asked here, they have been taken from the previous year questions of either GATE, SSC JEE or IES. So you need to focus on the previous year question of these kind of exam, so that you are able to answer the questions in the exam easily. And also it will save your time a lot. So that's all in this video. Thank you.